Oh, hell no.
Okay, well, it's bucketing rain out there today. Not that I can't go anywhere anyway, because, like, it's so I wouldn't be going anywhere anyway. So, alright. I want to talk a little bit about numbers today, and about, this isn't really a conspiracy thing about don't trust the media, don't trust politicians. What it's really more about is journalists have a duty to record and report the truth, but they don't always know what the full truth is. And it's not their fault. It's not that they're doing their jobs badly or anything like that. It's just that they don't always know the full truth. Now think about this. Have you ever had this time in your life where something happened and you knew, like the guy that's being talked about on the TV news, you knew the person? And then you knew the backstory behind what was going on, you know, and then you ask yourself, how come they're not telling the whole truth on the news? You know, why aren't we hearing this side of the story? And that's the thing about news reporting and journalism, is that they don't always report the full truth, and it's not their fault. It's just that sometimes the information is incomplete. Now, I want to show you today this little thing that's been called the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine Coronavirus Research Center Global COVID-19 Map. And this is a perfect example of incomplete information. Now, it's not, let me just say right off the bat, that if you're going to spend time looking at this map, just use it as a wee bit of a guide, because this is a global pandemic. The information that you're seeing is incomplete, and it's changing and updating all the time. Now, okay, so before we deep dive into some of the information in these countries here, let's just have a look at the current map of New Zealand. So this is the COVID-19 map for New Zealand. The current date is 30th of March as I record this particular part of the video. So it's 30th of March. And currently we have 514 cases in New Zealand, 56 recovered and 1 death thus far. Now we can see here there's a fairly even spread around New Zealand. We have our largest concentration up in Auckland, so North Shore, Auckland City, Manukau City. We've got like 63 in Hamilton. Coming down, we've sort of got 49, 13 in like Wellington, 19 in Nelson, 46 in Canterbury region, 70 down here in Dunedin, Southland area. Okay, that's New Zealand as of today. Johns Hopkins map. Okay, let's have a zoom in on New Zealand. Okay, we've got 1 dot there in Wellington, so it looks like we're in Wellington, right? Take a closer look. Zoom in. Zoom in, zoom in. Well, hang on, this one case is not even in the mainland. Zoom in, so we're near Wellington, we're near Paraparaumu. Whoa, it's, oh look at that, Kapiti Island Nature Reserve. Oh look, all 514 cases must be in this 1 dot here on a boat offshore of the North Island. So, okay, so we zoom back out. Obviously that is not the case. This is what we mean when we say that the information is sort of incomplete, and it's not fully accurate. Anyway, let's zoom back out to the, I want to show you a couple of other interesting little hot spots as well. India, right? Here's another example. Here's India. India went into a nationwide 3-week lockdown the exact same day as New Zealand. We're in a 4-week lockdown, they're in a 3-week lockdown. And oh, look at this. 1 case in India. Of the entirety of India, like 1.3 billion people in India. And it's not in Mumbai, the biggest, like, or New Delhi, which are like the 2 biggest cities. There's New Delhi. No, it's right in the middle, like 1 little dot. Okay, so you get the idea. Incomplete information. Now, something that's a little bit peculiar. Okay, let's have a look at Wuhan, right? So I've never been to Wuhan before. It is sort of on my to-do list of places to go in China. You know, I was thinking about going to, you know, Wuhan to check out Happy Valley. But we all know at this point, we've heard, even if you hadn't heard of Wuhan before, you know, you now know, right? Wuhan is where it started. Okay, let's look at Wuhan. And we've got this series of dots, seem to be evenly spread around China, which I think is a bit weird. And look at that. Oh, hang on. Nothing in Wuhan? Seriously? Not even one? We got like a cafe over there. What's that town? Jingmen. Nothing in Wuhan. Bit odd, isn't it? Okay. Let's have a look at North America. I find North America is a little bit peculiar. Now keep in mind, right, Johns Hopkins University of Medicine, I googled it. It's in Baltimore, Maryland, so it's in the United States. So when you look at America right there and compared to Canada above it, you've got a much more accurate, spread out, clearer picture of the outbreak in North America compared to Canada. Look at that. Canada has got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dots, and the United States has got thousands of them. So let's have a zoom in and we'll have a look at New York, because we know that New York's got a lot of... I just said it. I'm going to have to bleep that word out, aren't I? We know that New Zealand, we know that New York has got the MODELO bug. Right. But even then, look at you zoom in right on New York, and these dots are sort of evenly spread out, which it's not really, when you look at this and you see how evenly spread out they all are, once you zoom in, you sort of understand that the information is not really that, the dots, so to speak, the physical dots are not really representative of anything, really. And I think the only thing that you can really take from the dots is that when you look at the global world view, you then get a wee bit more of a picture just by looking at the global world view. So lastly, let's have a look at Spain, and then we'll deep dive into some of the numbers. Spain and Italy. Again, look at this. We know that in Italy there's a lot, and we know that in northern Italy there's a lot. And when we look at Italy, look at that, Rome, San Marino. What about the rest of Italy? We know that there are 97,000 cases and over 10,000 dead in Italy thus far, as of the day that I'm recording this video. And why such few spread? Why such little spread? All right, so that's the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine Coronavirus Resource Center map. Let's just have a look at some of these numbers. Some of these numbers are interesting. So, the United States currently has 139,000 cases. These are the top countries right now. Italy, 97,000 cases. There's Italy. China, 82,000 cases. Okay, now you have to ask the question, don't you? Do you believe them? And I tell you, for one, I do not believe them, not for one single second. Now, it breaks down like this, right? You can choose how you report information and how you record information, and this is absolutely critical as it relates to this. Okay, so how do you record information? Okay, so if you want to underreport the numbers of MODELO bug deaths, here's what you can do. When the person dies, you can record the cause of death as pneumonia rather than of MODELO bug, right? So then when information sources, when journalists ask you for that information, whether it's an internal request for information or it's an external request for information, so it's your internal government controlled news agencies or your external BBC and CNN and stuff like that, when those information requests come through, you just give them the information, but the information that you've recorded in the first place has not been accurate. And this is the whole thing about China and why I don't trust the numbers out of China whatsoever. Okay, let me just show you something real quick here. Now this is kind of a conspiracy, and there could be explanations for this. It's just one of those things that sort of go on the rounds at the moment. 21 million Chinese cell phone users disappeared in 3 months. I'm just going to read the first part of it. The opacity of the Chinese Communist authorities obliges dependable outside the house observers to appear for clues to the truth of the matter for the MODELO epidemic, in its place of simply repeating official information and facts devoid of concern. Alright, never mind, I won't read that. Anyway, the point of this is, like, if you want to do a little bit of a deep dive into a conspiracy theory, basically a whole lot of cell phone subscriptions in China have disappeared, and the number that keeps being circulated is 21 million. Now, there are potential explanations as to why this could be. Here's another one. Is China hiding the MODELO bug death toll? 21 million cell phones. So, you know, some of the explanations for this could be along the lines of people had 2 cell phones and they cancelled one subscription because, you know, they're not using the second cell phone, things like that. But it does sort of ask the question, doesn't it? You know, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And then here's the other thing, right? In the early days of this MODELO bug outbreak, you had low numbers of reported dead, you know, only in the hundreds, but yet there was such a huge reaction to it in terms of build a couple of hospitals in Wuhan and like shut the borders and quarantine and all that. And so with such low numbers at the beginning, and then there's such a huge reaction to those low numbers, you had to ask yourself, what are they not telling us? What are they hiding? So I don't believe for 1 second that the actual number of dead in China is like 3,304. I don't believe that for 1 second. I think the true number is much, much higher. At the very least, I think it's in the tens of thousands. I think it's more likely to be in the hundreds of thousands. If you believe that conspiracy theory on the 21 million cell phones, it could be into the millions. I don't know where the truth is of that, but I can just about guarantee you that with a country of 1.4 billion people, 3,000 dead in China, that's nonsense. It's a bit like how the Soviet government reported the deaths of Chernobyl. You know, there were thousands of people died from radiation sickness over the years and stuff, you know, from Chernobyl. And, you know, they just concealed it. And the official death toll was like 33 or something. Deaths due to the Chernobyl disaster. Anyway, I'm not going to go reading all that. There's a lot of information in there. Okay, so that's the current state of how things are at the moment. Now, I know this video is running long, but thank you for sticking with me thus far. Now, let's have a look. Let's jump back in time and let's go forward in time and let's have a wee look at how many cases are in New Zealand and what the escalation level is at. Alright, let's have a look at the numbers, the dreadful escalating numbers. So starting on the 26th of March, this is going back a week ago now, let's look at our baseline. Up in Auckland we've got 99 cases, in Wellington we've got 42, in Christchurch we've got 13, and Dunedin we've got 14.
this is sort of our baseline, and you'll see that out in the ocean there we've got 80. So 80 is the what do you call it, like the unconfirmed cases at that particular point in time. Now just bear in mind too that, you know, when you look at the map and it looks like it's Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, Dunedin, which is like the main cities, it's not, they're not actually always in those cities, exactly in those cities. It's in that region. So when we say Christchurch, it could actually mean Canterbury, you know, so just keep that in mind. So let's look at the next day. On the 27th, whoa, and we are escalating already. On the 27th, you know, we're up to 133 in Auckland, 58 Wellington, 30 Christchurch, and 39 in Dunedin. On the 28th, so I started recording a little bit more information there, we've got 451 cases nationwide, and you know, Auckland's up to 151. And it's at this particular point you notice too in the South Island that Dunedin is really starting to outrun Christchurch. So, you know, you've got 59 cases down in Dunedin and 40 in you know, Christchurch, Canterbury. On the 29th, Auckland's up to 177. Now if you do actually zoom in on Auckland, you'll see that that is, you know, broken into really 3 sub-cities. You know, you've got North Shore, Auckland City and Manukau City. And then just below that you've got 63, which is in Hamilton. But you've still got these other pockets. I mean, you have a look around there and you can see, like in Matamata you've got 12, looks like Rotorua or Taupo you've got 8, you know, like Napier, Gisborne you've got sort of 12, you know, so you do have pockets in some other areas. You know, Nelson is starting to climb there, we've got 19 in Nelson, and yeah, down in the South Island still a hell of a lot more in Dunedin compared to Christchurch. On the 30th, yeah, we're up to 209 now in Auckland, 70 in Wellington, 49 in Christchurch, 89 in Dunedin. On the 31st, more again. Look at that, Hamilton is now up to 81. So you got 230 in Auckland, 71 in Wellington. Look at that, and down in South Island, 98 in Dunedin. And looking at this one, whew, on the 1st, pinch and a punch for the 1st of the month, no returns. This is no April Fool's Day joke. Auckland is up to 255 cases. Hamilton is up to 91. Going down to the South Island, Dunedin now has more than twice the number of Christchurch. You've got 108 down in Dunedin compared to 52 in Christchurch. Now just keep in mind too that, you know, a couple of days ago the Prime Minister has asked for more people to be tested because the nationwide testing capacity based on the number of machines available, blah blah blah, was about 3,000 per day, and they were only testing about, or it might be 4,000 per day, but they were only testing about half that, and people were being turned away from clinics, you know, suspecting that they had I just said it, I have to bleep it again, and they're actually being turned away. So hopefully that won't happen anymore, and the number of reported cases will probably continue to increase. I suppose the upside is that, you know, we are flattening the curve and we've only had 1 death thus far. So that's the State of the Union for week 1 of the latching. We'll see you next week for week 2. Here's a little sneak peek.